Marcus DeWitt's day began at 4:45 a.m., as it always did. The first light of dawn had barely kissed the sky when he shuffled into the small kitchen of his modest two-bedroom apartment in Queens, New York. His daughter, Zoe, only 8 years old, still lay curled up under her unicorn blanket, safe in the second bedroom, the only reason Marcus had taken the overnight janitorial job in the first place. Every decision since his wife passed away 3 years ago had been guided by Zoe's well-being. From the job he took to the neighborhood he lived in, Marcus was a man who walked quietly, spoke little, and lived for one reason alone: his daughter. He poured himself a cup of weak black coffee and scanned her lunchbox for the day. Turkey sandwich, an apple, a juice box, and a cookie he'd baked over the weekend. Satisfied, he scribbled a short note and slipped it inside her box: "Be brave. Be kind. Love, Dad." He kissed her forehead gently before heading out the door. By 6:00 a.m., Marcus was inside the towering, glass-clad headquarters of Stratton Industries, one of the largest multinational tech corporations in the world. Located in Midtown Manhattan, the Stratton building was as intimidating as it was beautiful. Dozens of floors housed the brains of global innovation, high-ranking CEOs, dealmakers, and billionaires. And in the quiet hours of the morning, before the buzz began, it was Marcus's domain. He wore a faded gray jumpsuit with a laminated name tag clipped to the chest. Marcus D. Simple. Forgettable. Just the way he liked it. He knew the building's layout better than most executives did. Which elevator arrived the fastest, which offices used which imported tile that required different cleaning solutions, which security guard had a sweet tooth for jelly donuts, it was all memorized. He greeted the early crew with a polite nod but never lingered in conversation. Most of the staff didn't know his last name, let alone his history. No one would have guessed that the quiet janitor once stood at the center of international summits as a linguistic genius and cultural liaison for European intelligence. Fluent in 5 languages, Dutch, French, German, English, and Russian, Marcus had translated sensitive dialogues for prime ministers, military leaders, and diplomats. That life ended the day his wife, Elise, a Dutch-American schoolteacher, suffered a sudden brain hemorrhage that stole her life while grading papers at her desk. One moment, she was marking a child's spelling test. The next, she was gone. Grief gutted Marcus like a fire. He resigned from his government post, left Europe, and moved back to the U.S., settling in New York with Zoe in tow. The only thing he brought with him was a tattered Dutch-English dictionary Elise had gifted him in college and a promise he'd made to her, to raise Zoe with love, honesty, and humility. The early morning hours at Stratton were therapeutic. The only sound was the soft hum of cleaning machines and the occasional distant elevator bell. It was 6:45 a.m. when Marcus found himself on the 51st floor, polishing the glass walls of the executive wing. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the skyline, shimmering in shades of gold as the sun peaked above the horizon. It was here that fate took its turn. As Marcus finished polishing the corner pane, his phone vibrated in his pocket. He slipped off his gloves and checked the screen. It was Zoe's school, the Meadowgate Academy. A private institution that had offered her a partial scholarship based on an essay she wrote about missing her mom. His stomach clenched as he answered. "Hello? Dit is Marcus DeWitt," he said, his voice instinctively switching to Dutch as the familiar voice of Miss Van Rijn, the Dutch receptionist at the school, filled his ear. She explained that Zoe had gotten a mild fever during the morning screening and would be held in the nurse's office. Marcus responded quickly, compassionately, in fluent Dutch, his voice deep but gentle as he reassured the caller and made arrangements. Unbeknownst to him, he wasn't alone. At the end of the corridor, a woman in sharp heels and a navy blue power suit had just stepped off the elevator. Vivienne Stratton, CEO of Stratton Industries, daughter of the company's late founder, and one of Forbes' top 10 women changing the world, was not used to surprises. She stopped mid-step when she heard the language. Dutch. spoken flawlessly. She recognized it immediately, not just the words, but the accent. The cadence was native level. She had lived in Brussels for 5 years and held long-standing admiration for the Netherlands. To hear someone speaking it, especially in such a precise, dignified tone, in her own building, was a curiosity. She tilted her head and waited. When Marcus ended the call, he turned and froze slightly when he saw her. "I didn't mean to interrupt," Vivienne said, stepping forward. "That was Dutch, wasn't it?" He straightened, slipping the phone into his pocket. "Yes, ma'am. You speak it well." "I was born in The Hague," he replied simply, meeting her gaze. "My mother was Dutch." She studied him for a moment. "You're the janitor?" "I prefer facilities specialist, but yes," he said with a flicker of humor. A corner of her lips tugged upward. "You didn't sound like someone cleaning windows. Who were you before this?" He hesitated. "Before I was a janitor," he asked. She nodded. "I was someone else." She smirked slightly. "That's evasive." He gave a tired smile. "Deliberately so." "Why?" she asked, folding her arms. He wiped his hands on his jumpsuit. "Because sometimes it's easier to live a quiet life than to explain why you left a loud one." Vivienne's sharp mind caught the weight behind the words. There was more to him, layers hidden beneath the gray uniform and polite manner. She didn't press. "Not yet." "Follow me," she said abruptly. "Ma'am? You have 10 minutes to impress me. Come." Despite himself, Marcus followed her down the glass corridor into her corner office. The space was immaculate, modern art hung on matte walls, a sleek desk made of walnut and steel, and a panoramic view that could take your breath away. She gestured for him to sit across from her. He remained standing. "You're not afraid of me," she said after a beat. "I've cleaned this floor for 3 years. I've seen how people look when they fear you," he said, calm. "That's not me." Her brow lifted, amused. "Interesting answer. I speak plainly." "I appreciate that," she said. "Now, what do you do in Dutch besides answer phone calls?" "I translate," he said carefully. "I used to interpret for international agencies." "European Commission," she guessed. He gave a slight nod. "That's not a janitor's resume." "No, ma'am, it isn't." "Then why are you here?" "Because my daughter needs me to pick her up at 3 every day. And because this job pays enough for us to survive, and gives me time with her. That's all that matters right now." Vivienne sat back in her chair, watching him with new eyes. In this man, she saw something rare, clarity. He wasn't chasing power or status. He wasn't trying to impress her. He had already known something most of her boardroom executives hadn't learned yet, that the most important things in life couldn't be put on a spreadsheet. "You're fluent in Dutch." "What else?" "French, German, Russian. I taught myself Mandarin once, but I'm rusty." "And yet you mop floors." "Yes," he said simply. With dignity. The room was silent for a moment. Then she leaned forward. "Marcus DeWitt, I have a proposition." He waited. "I'm launching a global language expansion campaign for our AI division. I need someone who understands nuance, who sees language not just as communication, but as culture. We've been looking for a linguistic strategist with European roots. I've gone through 60 candidates, and none have impressed me. And you think I will?" "I think you already have," she said. He said nothing. "I want you to work with our development team as a consultant. Part-time, remote flexibility. You choose your hours. Same salary as your current job, more, if you prove yourself." His throat tightened. "Why me?" "Because you were honest. Because you didn't ask for anything. And because you didn't flinch when I called you out. That's rare. He looked down at his shoes, stained from cleaning solution. I haven't worn a tie in 3 years. Good, she said. I hate ties. Marcus exhaled slowly. I need time to consider it. She smiled. You have 24 hours. And just like that, she rose and walked to her desk. Marcus turned to leave. Just before exiting, he paused. For what it's worth, he said, your Dutch pronunciation is excellent. Vivienne looked up, surprised. You understood me back there? He smiled. I understand more than most people think. Then he walked out of her office, not with the tired shoulders of a janitor, but with the poise of a man who had just remembered who he really was.